ActiveCampaign backup. This is one of those things people don't usually think about until they need it. And at that point, usually it's a little bit too late. So here's a way to do backups of your ActiveCampaign contacts automatically. Now, it requires a little work on your side. On your site, you'll need to create a MySQL database and install a PHP script. And then in your ActiveCampaign account, you're going to set up an automation that has a webhook that talks to that PHP script when somebody signs up to any list. And the biggie is it's automatic. So let's dive right in. Now, you may or may not know this, but you can simply download your contacts by going to Contacts and Export. That will automatically generate a CSV file with all your contacts. I encourage you to do that on a regular basis. But if you don't, here's a way to do it so that it automatically adds people as they get added to your account. So let's start on your web server. You're going to need to create a database, and you're going to need to install a script and configure it. So let's do the MySQL database first. So I'm going to create one called backup, or let's just call it ActiveCampaign since I've already done that. Go ahead and create that. You want to create a user, and I am doing user password, and do not use password as a password, but I am for this. Go ahead and do that. And then finally, give permissions to that newly created database user to access the newly created database. So right here, add user to database, go ahead and click on add and give it all privileges. And then make those changes, and then you can go back and you're going to need those credentials that you just created. So just keep that in mind. And there's the database and the user is over there. So you want to create a script called backup.php on your web server. Here it is. And inside here, you want to do a little bit of a configuration, especially the database stuff. And the instructions are right here if you need it. But paste in or type in the database name, the database user, which in this case was user, and then the database password, and then the database host, which is typically localhost. You may need to check with your provider. And then after that, there's nothing to do inside this script. We do need to actually do an installation. So you're going to want to visit the script that you just installed on your domain, followed by a question mark install. So if I do that, it says success. It's created the appropriate tables. And one thing I'm going to do just for show and tell is to let you look at the database. And again, this is just for backup purposes. So if I go in here, I go to this database, there's the contacts table that is created. And right now there's nothing in it. So now what we need to do is go back to ActiveCampaign. So I'm going to go ahead and create an automation from scratch. And I'm going to do when somebody subscribes to a list. So immediately they're backed up. So any list, I'm going to just run it once. If I ran it multiple times, no big deal, because the way the script is set up, it will only add them if they're unique. So I'm going to go ahead and say add start. And we're going to go to contacts, actually conditions and workflow, webhook. Now this is where I paste in that link, and I do not want to have the question mark install there. So go ahead and do that. Go ahead and in this automation, give it a name, and make it active. So now going forward, when anybody subscribes to any of your lists, their information is going to get passed to that backup.php script, which will then put it into a database. So let's take a look at that. Now what I'm going to do is simply add them manually to that automation. So right now inside the database, and if I click on browse, there is nothing in there. If I add them to the backup automation, we can see that they've finished and started that automatically. So now if I go here and click on Browse, there's that information about that contact. So that's how you set up an automation to automatically back up your ActiveCampaign contacts.